Once upon a time, there was a strange and fabulous land called Merica, spelled with an M. And one of the things that was strangest about this fabled land was that words and phrases were used in a way opposite of their actual meanings. So in Merica, for example, the word freedom meant mass surveillance, it meant oppression, and it meant a number of restrictions on what people could do, how they could love, what they could say in public, and what they could read. This was called freedom. The word love meant something that could only occur between two fixed genders, male and female, only occur when they were married, and only occur for the purpose of having children. This was called love. The word wealth referred to the fact that a handful of people possessed most of the nation's resources and finances at a time when many Americans were making ends meet with great difficulty if they managed to do it at all. So a handful of people controlled half the nation's wealth. This was known as wealth. Greatness had to do with sending ambassadors who, even that word was inverted, they were actually henchmen, to other nations to talk down to their representatives. And these were nations, bear in mind, that had either adequate or excellent education resources, adequate or excellent healthcare, public transport, and a number of other features that were in fact superior to those of the Americans, precisely because the super wealthy people at the top would not permit these. The word religion too was inverted, so it actually meant an anti-religion where white males were considered more important than anybody else in America, but you were not allowed to say so in public. So all the policies were reshaped to reflect that, and the struggles of other people were systematically erased. Finally, the word leaders in Merica, in actual fact, meant convicted criminals. So this land was so strange and so upside down and inside out that one day Jesus, who lots of Americans talked about incessantly all throughout the day, decided to visit Merica and try to figure out what was going on there. So Jesus came to Merica and looked around Merica, and he was horrified. And the first thing he asked was, how is it that you have neglected the poor and the stranger and the outcast and the vulnerable, and not only neglected them, but actually hate them? That's exactly the opposite of what I told you to do. What is this lack of care? What is this lack of love? My religion was about love and radical freedom. You put the people who practice it in jail. Did you not hear the Sermon on the Mount? Did you not hear that the greatest commandment is love of each other and love of God? Where is all this? What is it that you think you're doing? It's as though you took my religion and turned it into its opposite, an anti-religion that really comes perhaps from the devil. At which point, Jesus was taken into custody for saying all these things that were so painful to hear in the land of freedom. And he was taken into custody at a time when there was interest in reviving some of the older ways of execution. So lynching was coming back, although lynching had never really disappeared from America. It was just not reported. Firing squad, other brutal methods of execution. But in the case of Jesus, they decided that because of his outlandish socialist communist claims, what he really deserved was crucifixion. So they crucified Christ in the name of Christ, which honestly didn't feel that different because they had been doing that for a long time anyway, in large ways and small. And after they did the deed, they did their best to forget about it and move on with life, because moving on was what they all talked about. Never mind the past, let's just move on. So a question that often comes up when people hear this strange tale is, whatever happened to Merica? Why is it not on any of the maps it tried to redraw? Where did it go? Well, all that was a long time ago, and nobody really knows. But what we do know is that there is no possibility that such an upside-down, inside-out place could ever exist for long in the modern world of their time. Perhaps Merica never was on the map, even though it tried to redraw all of them. Maybe Merica was a fantasy, a dangerous one, an entrenched one, just in some people's heads. But whatever the truth of the matter, it has come down to us mainly in two forms, in the form of this strange tale, and also in the form of a saying that's been around for a while that recently has become more popular. And the saying is the warning to be ignorant like American. So from these two sources, we try to remember the lessons of Merica, because that tale doesn't have a happy ending. They didn't live happily ever after. But if we can remember the lessons and the warnings, perhaps we can, together.